just for formality's sake, if I could have a show of hands of all official members so we can verify we have a quorum. We are good. Thank you. I will call this meeting to order, and let's start with a word of prayer.
I just now realized we didn't do the passing of the peace. Sorry. Yeah. Let us pray together, please. God of infinite possibilities, as we gather here to discuss the business of your church, we ask that you be with us. Inspire us to think outside the box. Allow us to be creative and to be faithful to who we are as your children as we do the business of your church. For it is in Jesus Christ's name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Our first order of business today is to look at and approve a budget for the next 18 months based on the previous decision at the special meeting to move back to an annual calendar schedule. And Mary Ellen, let me turn things over to you so that you can present the budget and we'll deal with questions accordingly.
Okay, as John said, we had agreed to go to the regular calendar year for our fiscal year, which means we're looking at an 18-month budget. The sheet we've given you has the current budget, the 2022-2023. That's the budget we're living on until we get to the end of June this year. And then just to make it a little more clear in terms of where we got the numbers, the next column is in kind of that pinkish red is for 2023. That's for the next 6 months from July through December. And then finally, we will have a full year of 2024 because as of January 2024, we will be on a regular calendar year. So if you look at the numbers, the proposed 2023, again, that's the 6 months from July until December. If you look at it compared to the budget for 2022, in general, it's 50% of that amount. We didn't make a lot of changes. A budget's a planning document. We're trying to plan for 18 months. That means there's a lot of things we don't know, a lot that can change. So in general, we were fairly conservative in terms of estimating what would happen. So, for example, the pledge receipts, 2022-23 was $142,000. We said we'll make half of that in the next 6 months, and we'll keep that number the same for the following year. So a lot of these numbers, you'll see that same pattern. We're saying 50% of what we paid so far for this year to finish this year, and then not changing it for the following year. There are a few changes. For example, the Plymouth fundraisers, that will basically show up twice because we do our fundraisers in the fall. So we will have one in this coming fall of 2023. We'll have another one in 2024. So that one is duplicated, and that makes the bottom line, shifts it more than just being 50%. So in terms of income, basically for 2024, we're saying the numbers will be the same as 2022-23, the current year we're in. Again, we're hopeful that number will go up. This year, we are actually ahead of where we expected to be as of the end of April in terms of receipts. We've taken in more money than the budget said we would. If that pattern continues, we will actually have a slightly higher income for 2024. But again, we wanted to be on the sort of cautious side so that there aren't huge shocks if things don't go as we're trying to plan for 18 months. In terms of the expenses, it's sort of the same pattern. The first column is the 6 months of this year, and in general, that's half of what it had been. In terms of the custodian, we've subdivided that. We now have a maintenance person and a custodian, so those numbers don't exactly match because we've reduced the hours of one position and added a second position. A lot of things like payroll taxes, a lot of those things they're built in, it's a percentage, we can't change that anyway. We had thought about changing the utilities because utilities in general go up, but after talking to Stephanie, our financial person, the numbers actually haven't been going up, so we felt comfortable just leaving them as they were. The other big change, and that's on page 3, where it's the minister's package. Reverend Becky said, no, we're not giving her a 50% raise. Although we could vote to do that, and she's right here. No, the thing is, our search committee, as you know, has been working diligently to find a new ministry that we will call to our church. And we didn't want the committee to feel bound by picking a low number. We wanted them to have a salary that was reasonable so that we could afford to call someone who has more experience if that's the applicant that seems to be the right fit for our church. It's possible we will get, someone who's newer in the field and whose salary would be less, but we wanted to be able to call the right person and not have to go back and say, but wait, we didn't budget for that. So we put in a slightly higher number, and that means higher things in terms of the annuity, the Social Security, all those other things. Most of those are percentage based on the salary you pick. That number is really an out there number at this point because we have not yet called a person. So that might happen soon, it might not. So that's kind of going to be a floating number until we actually find the right person who's the right fit for our church and they actually come here. And we can't know until that actually happens what those numbers will be. So if people have questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. If I can't, Stephanie or one of the other budget committee members probably can. Any questions? It's a lot of numbers to digest, but as I said, a lot of them didn't change much, so I think that makes it easier to see where we've been and where we're hoping to be or where we're thinking we might be, but 18 months is a long time. Yeah, Ron.
Just a question, this pledges at 42, is that the number of pledges we actually have, and then is that accurate, the pledge receipts of 142 are given by that group?
Stephanie would know that. And even though the budget is out there, but since we're speaking of pledges, just a reminder while I think of it and while we're on that topic, pledge letters have gone out to members urging you to pledge for the upcoming year, for the upcoming 6 months and the following year. We would really like to get those back. If we get the pledges back, that gives us a much firmer number in terms of knowing what our income will be. In general, we've made more on the loose offering and the non-pledge numbers than we budget for. That number usually goes over. But because it's not pledged, we can't guarantee that it will go over. So getting more of that into the pledge column gives us a firmer basis for saying we know we can count on having this much money. And the other part of that pledge mailing that went out, there is a second sheet that has ways you might offer your services to the church in terms of helping with being an usher or a liturgist or whatever. I know in the past there's been a feeling that if you fill that out, you don't necessarily get contacted back. We want that to change. So if you fill that out and indicate an interest in doing any of those tasks on that secondary sheet, we promise we will get back to you. You will be invited to help us out. So back to the budget. Does anybody have any other questions? This is too easy. I guess it's appropriate to ask for a motion to approve it. Oh, John, you want to do that?
I can.
I hope.
Steve?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as written.
Very good. A second? Jamie? I second. Thank you. Steve Sullivan. We have a motion on the floor to approve the budget as presented. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion passed.
One other thing I was asked to announce in terms of inviting people to participate in the work of the church. The Historical Committee has been active and has done our Historical Sundays in November for many years. They've lost a few members, and we are very much in need of somebody who would be willing to work on that committee. Ann Edwards is in charge of that. She's actually here today, so you could let her know today, or otherwise let somebody, fill out the sheet and let us know, because we would like that committee to keep going. We would like that, the history of the church to continue to be recorded, and so we need a few extra people to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Our second order of business, at our special meeting, we had discussed and you approved the looking into a possible capital campaign. We have been able to put together a number of figures. We have actual bids for a number of the pieces of work that need to be done. And I'm going to turn things over to Becky to present what we have.
Sorry. I'm waiting for Aaron to get my PowerPoint up for you. Just a word about how this actually got started is there were several emails going back and forth, probably a year ago or more. We need to look at the boiler, we need to look at the elevator, we need to look at front doors. Oh yeah, the daycare wants us to fix one of the bathrooms. And it was just like, the list kept going on, and we're like, I finally just said, you know what? I think we need to talk about a capital campaign, not because I like them, but I just don't think it's good to go back to the congregation every other year and say, oh, we need another $100,000, because some of those things are big ticket items. So we put together a list of things that we are proposing to do. There is a priority to the list. And then we went and got some bids, and that's what we're going to present now. So let's go to the next slide. So the campaign is to replace our old furnace, repair the elevator, replace the front doors and the handicap mechanism and the security cameras, to refurbish our chapel and bring it back to being a chapel, update some daycare bathrooms, which would also mean some painting to be done. To look at the stained glass windows, we had a proposal back from 2019 to do some repairs on them, and we had that updated. To talk about the possibility of solar panels and to replace all of our lights with LED lights. So, the next one. We need to replace Big Bertha. I had to have some fun with this. So what we're going to do is Big Bertha is going to be replaced by 3 smaller units. One unit will cover the sanctuary, this space. The other 2 units will cover 3 different zones. So that when we're already zoned, but you got this big machine firing up. Now we'll have smaller ones be much more economical. I put the total cost as $125. The bid was not that high, but there is some question as to when we get into the project, the venting of some things, and if Jim was here, he'd give you all the detail on that. I'm just giving you stuff I think I remember him saying. So there's some parts of it we don't know until we actually get her out of here and start to put the new one in. And so I want to make a cushion in there in case it ends up being a little bit bigger than we had anticipated. Elevator. The elevator, we found out, the cab does not need to be replaced, but the mechanism needs to be replaced. So like everything is mechanical, and the new stuff is all electronic. So it's changing that over from mechanical stuff to electronic stuff. And that's the technical term, it's all stuff. So, and although the cab doesn't need to be replaced, I took a picture of it. We may want to update it a little bit, maybe get that crummy carpet out of there, put something a little bit nicer, just make it look a little bit more updated. So again, the total cost, I put that as $125. The bid, I can't remember exactly what the bid was for that, but that bid did not include any kind of decorative stuff, which is not gonna, it's probably not gonna be that much. And I didn't want to like lowball everything and then come back to you and say, oh, wait, we didn't ask for enough money. So, next. The front doors, this started also quite a while ago. We thought about painting them, then we realized they were rusted. The doors that we have, you really can't see who's out there. The camera that they have for the daycare, we can't really, that's not a good resolution. You can't really, you see that there's a body out there and that's about it. So what we want to do is put in new doors, and on the left you have what the design's going to be like. On the right is what the actual is going to be. So it's going to be 2 center doors that open up without that bar in there so that we can easily get a casket in and out. And then on the side of those 2 doors are going to be windows. Okay? And we're going to update the security. Well, the handicap mechanism will be replaced. I don't know if you've ever heard that thing get turned on, but it sounds like a rabid skunk. I heard one once. It sounds like that. And then we want to update the security cameras, get better security. And daycare said they would help us with that project. And we want to make sure that we can see who's out there from all of our offices. Daycare can see, but we can't. And I certainly can't up in my office. So we want to make sure that everybody has a monitor that they can see who's out there and they can let them in. When I'm here alone, by the time I get down there and they see me, if I don't want to let them in, that's kind of rude. So I can it'd be nice if we could all have that capability. Bathrooms. Some work has been done on the bathrooms. Oh, wait. Missed a slide there. Are we? Oh. Did I go too far? I did. Sorry. Refurbish our chapel. So right now we're working on the flooring for the chapel. We're going to look at the lighting. The lighting in there is not good. It's very dim. We could never like play handbells in there. You couldn't see anything. And we're going to talk about what kind of seating. Where we're going to use the chairs that we have. Are we going to buy new chairs? So that's the refurbishing of the chapel. That is underway. We tore up the carpeting last year, last fall. So we decided that needs to get done. And there has been already a donation into the capital campaign. So we thought, well, we have a little bit of money. Let's get going on the chapel. The goal is to have the flooring done by June 12th or so. Daycare does need to use that space a little bit this summer. It's not because of the number of kids they have. They have a lot of kids with special needs, and they need to separate them and have more space for the kids. And we said, yeah, they can use it again this summer. We'll see about going forward. Okay, now, daycare bathrooms. Some work has been done on the one. What we'd like to do is, we have done some work upstairs in that bathroom. It has a new counter, a new sink. That's all done, looks beautiful. But the flooring is in really bad shape. It needs to be repainted. There's a door that goes into that bathroom from the hallway, which is blocked off. So we thought about just getting rid of that door and drywalling that. There's a door that goes into the room itself. I think it used to be the nursery, but that's all one big room now. We thought about taking that door out and drywalling, and then we'd have to paint. And we'd have to paint the hallway. We'd have to do some painting within the classrooms just to get that done. So I don't know if you can see on the register, there's a big rust. Next one. The top right on the register, there's a big rust stain on the register. We got to get that cleaned up. There's the view from the bathroom. The 2 doors are right next to each other. We're getting rid of the one on the right. That same door from the hallway. And then the small bathroom down here, that floor is about the same as the one upstairs, and that really should be replaced as well. We did redo one. That's what the nice bathroom looks like. So you kind of see the difference between the two. I didn't realize that that was a tile floor in that bathroom. I thought it was linoleum. So I created a number in my head for putting linoleum down. I don't know what's going to be decided. The number I created was 2,000. I have no idea if that's accurate. I felt like I had to give you a number. The stained glass windows. They need to re-cement the windows on the exterior, remove loose paint and apply new, seal ventilators. This is all from the proposal. I don't understand any of it. Install clear flow protective covering system, cover with clear flow protective covering with a 1/4 inch acrylic. And it gave us two quotes, the $85,000 to do all the windows, $32,000 just to do a couple of them. Now, I think this is kind of at the bottom of the list. If we have the money to do it, great. If we don't, I mean, but it's also one of those things that we need to put a committee together to really look at this, talk to the people about what really does need to be done, what's urgent, if we don't do anything, what's going to happen. I just think we need a separate committee to deal with the windows. So, I put together a budget. On the left is doing all the windows. On the right is just doing a portion of the windows. So it's under 500,000. You know, I think that's inflated. I really hope so. But one of the things I inherited is some of the PTSD from that project that went way over budget. And I'm trying not to do that. Oh. Solar panels, sorry. And that is just an estimate. They have just finally gotten back to me. I said, I need a number to put in a budget. They said, that's a safe number. Okay, now there's the full.
For heat, or is that for electric, or what is it? The solar panels?
It'd be electric. Yeah. Yes.
When was the roof last put on? Like that section?
This section's about, the one section that they're really looking at is 10 years old, I think, around 10. I was thinking like over the daycare, that flat roof, but they're looking at the section that is slanted, and that's the newer roof. I mean, they'll have to come out and look at that. Again, I don't think that's the top of our list, but it's something that I would like to see a committee put together that looks at all the ways that we could be greener as a church. And that's one of them.
The flat roofs are bad.
Okay. See, yeah. They saw a picture of the church, and they were talking about I know it has to be south-facing.
South-facing has to have an angle, so if you build it on the flat roof, you have to actually angle it.
Angle them up. Yep. Okay. So, should we decide to go ahead with this? The next steps. In the next couple weeks, I'd like to get the OC and the House Committee together, and I'd like them to establish committees to oversee these projects. The one thing that makes me really nervous about this is that I feel like I've been overly involved, and I don't know if I'm going to be here. And if this is going to be successful, it's because you all decide you're going to buy into this and do it. I think we need, keep missing slides. Next one. So we need a campaign committee. We need a group of people that are going to actually organize this campaign, do the fundraising, get the materials out to the congregation, and kind of oversee the whole thing. How much money have we brought in? How much have we spent? And kind of oversee the whole thing so we know when we can move on to the next project. We need a major projects group, and that's the ones I think that they'll oversee: the furnace, the elevator, the front doors, and maybe the bathrooms. Those big projects are all clumped together. We already have a chapel committee, so they'll oversee the finishing touches of the chapel. And then we would need a green committee, as I just mentioned, to oversee the lighting and research further and get better information about solar panels. The company that I reached out to They did send me an email with like 4 different links to incentive programs, so that won't all be on us. And just ongoing, what can we do to be greener as a church? And then the stained glass window, people can, stained glass window things. Preliminary timeline, this month, get those committees together and get them working. If we can get that furnace ordered tomorrow, it's a possibility it could be in by August. That wasn't initially what we were told, but that's the latest information we have, and that would be really nice to get that done, because it did not always cooperate with us this past winter. June, we'll get the flooring finished in the chapel and with finishing touches in there. By July, finalize any decisions on the doors and get them installed. August, the furnace, and then by September, finish up those daycare bathrooms. And then October, look what's been done, look where the money is, and say, what are we going to go do going forward? Questions? Yes.
Can you go back to the money page? We saw it like 30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. I saw it longer.
You have.
There you go.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, Steve?
In the past, the daycare has thrown in for projects that benefit them as well as us. And you mentioned that they were willing to do something for the bathrooms, obviously, that are part of that, and that stuff. Are they also willing to throw in to help replace the furnace, which would also benefit them?
We have not talked about that.
Doors, I think a lot of that should,
We talked about the security system.
they should be talked to about this. He's right.
Have they expressed any opinion on what they might be able to do on that? Not in terms of money, but whether they're willing to help with the furnace and the doors?
We did not talk about the furnace, we talked about the doors and the security system, and that they were willing to do something. We haven't gotten to specifics, no.
Have to see if the solar can be hooked into the furnace too, because it's the solar boost to help with the furnace. And the LED lights should have been changed a long time ago. I mean, cheaper and light, cooler and everything you can run it, better off your electricity.
Yep.
And, so, like I say, there might be some government money coming for solar, I'm not sure.
Yeah, there are some incentive programs, that's,
I put solar in, like an 83, I had my first solar panel. And they work.
yeah, they do, we have them at home too. Don?
I missed something, what's the difference between the two numbers?
The windows. The one number is doing all the windows, the other number is just doing a couple, and I don't know, I just put the numbers down there.
And then that second thing is, how many, Stephanie could probably answer this, how many paying units do we have?
Well, we have 42 pledges in the budget, I mean, that's the place to start.
No, but I think there's a lot of people who don't pledge that participate, right? Yeah. So are we talking 60, or what is it?
I don't know.
And this is over a 5-year?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't put that on here, but we were thinking like 5-year, pledge your amount and pay over a 5-year
What I
period.
was trying to get, what is the average per unit, family unit that's going to support this? What's the average for the 5 years, and then divide that by 5, that'll give you a person an idea how much per year. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I don't have that.
But I think that would be an important number. If we only got 42, then that would be 100,000. No, 10,000, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean,
460,000 divided by 42, divided by 5,
they're just doing the math of if 42 is our number of giving, more than 42 units give, but that's our pledging number that we have. If you divide the 460 by 42 by 5 years, it's like $2,200 a year. And that's fine. Not everybody can do the same. And some people can give much more than that, and some people, that will be a challenge for. So it's a starting point, but if everybody leaves here going, oh, I only have to do $2,200 a year, we aren't going to get there. Katie?
I was just gonna say, just for people to understand solar, because we have it on our house, you are not making your solar and using it for your church. You are a utility company, and you are selling it back. You're selling your extra back to the utility company, unless you were to put in battery packs, battery chargers, which cost more money, then you're like using it, you're using your solar for your building. No, you're making solar, you're getting a credit for what you made, and if you make more than what you used, you get some money for it. So just so you know, you're not,
Yeah, Public Law 19.
we're not free. And then I just have one other question about the chapel flooring, 25,000, that just seems so high.
It's inflated for, I mean, the bid wasn't that high, but I just, what are you going to run into? We're putting in tile. And actually, the tile that they picked out was cheaper than the vinyl plank. Jackie?
I just had one comment that I wanted to make regarding the thoughts that I was hearing about, will the daycare take part in the furnace expense? I think we have to remember that the daycare does pay us rent. We are the landlords, and usually the landlords take care of major appliances. So I don't think we can nickel and dime them to ask to be a part of this and a part of that. We have to take responsibility for those big items. The things that, like the bathrooms, yes, those are theirs to use. The smaller items, I can see us asking for some participation. But the other part concerns me with it.
Well, I think that it's important to look at your budget. $30,000 a year is what the daycare pays us to use this building. That's a chunk of change. So, I actually agree with you, Jackie. I mean, Phyllis approached me and said, I'll talk to my board about helping with the security, because that really is a daycare item. But it helps the rest of us too, to see who's coming in and who's out there. And the bathroom upstairs, somebody donated that. What has been done has been completely donated and didn't cost us anything. So we're only talking about paint, the floors, and closing up those doors. Ron?
I just want to clarify that we're going to run our own campaign, seek our own donation. We're not going to use some outside firm like we did before, is that correct?
That's what I heard from you. So, I mean, that makes me nervous, because, like I said, I'm not going to be here to see to the end of this thing. I'm sure of that, unless, I don't know. There are some people on a committee in this congregation who don't want me here forever. They want to get their job done. So that means that we have to have a group of folks who are going to see this through and do all the advertising and, seeking out the donations. I do have a name for the United Church of Christ Building and Loan Fund, and I guess they have folks that help us. I don't know what that all entails, and they're probably not going to be happy because we're at this step, and they were here from the beginning. I just heard about them 2 weeks ago. I've not ever dealt with the Building and Loan Fund. So I do have resources. Whoever takes over, you're going to get my little folder here, which has the bids. It has emails from different companies and what they are suggesting, and so, I'm going to just hand it over and let you guys do it. But before church, I was talking to somebody like, if you're not excited about this, how are you going to sell it? I'm like, I don't have to be excited about it, because I'm leaving. You guys have to be excited about this. seriously, this is your church. And, you know, furnaces are tough because they're not sexy. You know, the chapel's kind of sexy. When we're done, it's going to be, but, you know, furnaces are not fun until next December when you're in the middle of worship and it goes out. Then all of a sudden, it's going to be a big deal. Jane?
This is I've had a development career, so major campaigns is something I'm very familiar with, and I'm gonna echo what you're saying, Becky. I don't think you're the one that should be leading this. I would really encourage the church, I know it's a percentage that goes back to the consultant, but they know what they're doing, they know how to lay this all out. They'll do, a lot of the heavy work for us, and to me, we need a lot more detail in terms of prior to going into this campaign, and I think that they would really help with that. So I would encourage having somebody come in and help us with this. Unless people want to go and ask people for money, and usually I know the answer to that, and that's no, I don't want to do that. But that's honestly what we need, is somebody that's got that capability to do that.
Jackie?
Jane, when we did that last time, even though that company was giving us the guidance and charging us their percentage, we still had to go personally and ask for the money. So it didn't change that at all. And I think there was a chunk of money that they put on us,
Well, and there you go.
and that concerns me.
That's a church.
Because we're going to still have to go out and solicit, or do it by mail, whatever.
Jamie?
I would also like to remind us that we are a congregational church, and we've always had really great leaders, but we need to take on that leadership and start getting stuff done, like having someone on the operating council who's not the same person for past, present, and future moderator. Like, we gotta start stepping up and taking care of what needs to be done, and if we all do a little bit, it makes it easier on us. And having good discussions like this is a start, right?
We're gonna do that adults.
I think one of the other things we need to keep in mind, particularly around the windows and possibly one or two of the other projects, there are grants available for historic buildings that we can look into. This would be part of the tasking to one of those committees that oversees the process. And so these numbers are not necessarily final in regards to what we may have to raise. There will be some other resources that we can tap. So, but again, we'd like to put out a large ballpark so that we have some flexibility. And gee whiz, if we make the big number and the bids and the actual work come in under that, it means we have some spare funds that we can address one or two other things that, much like the furnace and the windows, have been put off again and again. So I think at this point, is it, Don, you have a question?
I was going to say that, just like you're starting now on part of it, we have enough funds that we can borrow with our own system, which every 0%. Of course, we won't get interest on it, but it's a pretty small amount. So we do have quite a considerable amount of that. We can keep going because the capital program won't be done for 5 years.
Correct. And that matter will come up very shortly. Ron?
Well, I was just gonna ask John, if you could summarize, if we give approval today, what exactly are we giving you approval to do?
The vote will basically be to accept the responsibility of a capital campaign, which we will in turn, at this point in time, take the responsibility of running ourselves. That basically is what this vote is for. Then from there, We've got one more thing that we'll discuss in regards to this, but we need to approve the campaign first before we forge ahead with the next piece. Do we have a motion to take on a new capital campaign over the next 5-year period to raise 450 or 500?
I've been throwing around 500, but.
So we're going to target 500,000. If we meet it, we do. If we don't, that's part of the reality. But that's what the target is going to be at this point in time. Katie? Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. A second? Jackie? Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passed.
You're smiling now.
Could I say something?
Sure.
You know, part of that, the inflation of the numbers too, just, all you really need to do is take a walk around the outside of the building and you can see all the other projects that we really need to do. So it's not unheard of that we couldn't spend that whole 500,000 on other projects as well. It just means we don't have to come back to you and beg for more money. It means that we have a little bit of a nest egg. Because there are, as we walk around the building, we keep seeing things, and that's without really looking for things. So it's expensive to keep up a building.
Right, the next piece actually is the request to approve 40,000 that we would borrow against part of our assets that we have on hand so that we can lock in the bid with the company to begin securing the equipment they need to proceed with replacing the furnace. That total was $40,000. Do we have a motion to approve that? Deanna? Don? I think he beat you. We have a motion on the floor to approve the borrowing against our assets of $40,000 to secure our bid on the furnace. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion approved. All right. At this point in time, we actually do not have any real elections that need to be done. Most of the council is still facing one more year of duty. And the one big vacancy we do have is for a moderator, because I'm actually moving into my final year. Do we have any nominations from the floor for a new moderator to step in? All right, you're stuck with me alone for the next year. Is there any other business that we need to bring up at this meeting? Anything from the floor? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn? Steve? Second? Marcia? Have a motion on the floor to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Have a good day.